Welcome to part one of So You Still Think You Live on a Globe. I'm going to start a multi-part video series systematically explaining to you how and why this was created and how you can get off this big ball of lies. Each video in this series will build upon itself, where I will provide you a little bit more complex evidence and eventually hopefully get you off of this and into reality. I'm going to try my very best to start with the most simple and obvious explanations and proofs that you don't live here. But first we got to get to the why was this created? But before we get to the why, I want to get to the how. This is John D. Rockefeller, and he started the Board of Education in the early 1900s. And he is quoted as saying, "I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers." So the man that had his fingerprints all over the education that all of us got is of this mindset. And if you take a look at where the modern day textbooks come from, well, Robert Maxwell was a large contributing factor and controller of these textbooks. And he just happened to have some serious ties to a certain few people. So right off the bat, you're trusting people that want you as a worker, not a thinker, and have ties to some pretty rotten humans. And something you also need to be aware of is that one of the founding fathers of NASA is that gentleman circled right up there in green. His name is Wernher von Braun, and well, you can see who he used to work with. So what I'm trying to set up for you here is the fact that the information you've been given your entire life is not coming from trustworthy sources, not by a long shot. But the craziest part about it all is they don't try to hide it. Not at all. And this is just the beginning. Take a look. And quickly, just in case there are people unfamiliar with 666, it's in the Bible. It's the mark of the beast. It's the number of the beast. It's part of the beast system. And the beast isn't good. Just to clarify that. And when you start to make the realization that that number is littered everywhere throughout the heliocentric model that you believe in, that's part of the globe, Earth, and the solar system and the galaxy, it starts to make you wonder, well, is that really just, are these all coincidental or something else going on? And when I say littered throughout, I mean littered throughout. It's not just a handful. People have found literally 33 examples, no shocker there, of the number 666 in everything. Distance to the moon, 6 times 6 times 6,600. I mean, you can pause and look at these yourself, and when you realize this number is everywhere, and you start to look at the images and the pictures that these supposed trusted people give us, you got to start to question. And then they don't hide it, like I said.
Tonight, Commander Whitson making history with her record for any American. By the time she lands in September, her tally will be 666 days.
666 days in space.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
So your whole life, you haven't realized that you are trusting people that can't be trusted, that have been caught doing green screens in outer space and their rockets. Have you ever really taken a look at where they go? Because they're not going where you think they're going. And then, have you ever seen what happens when this multi-thousand-pound supposed metal object is ejected from their rocket? It moves an awful lot like a balloon. An awful lot like a balloon. So now, hopefully that I've set up for you the fact that you shouldn't trust where your information has been coming from your whole life. And there are clear nods to the not so good guys of the Bible. I want to explain to you, in my opinion, why I think this was created in the first place. One that I think most people can wrap their heads around is it's a system of control. If they can make you think you are just one of literally endless planets, and you were one of billions of people, and you were here on accident, evolved from an ape, created from a big bang that supposedly God didn't create, well then it takes away your power and your knowledge that you are an infinite being and you are here with a purpose, and that you have big things to do, and the only laws you need to pay attention to are the laws of God. But God, God's the bigger reason, I think. I think they want us believing we are just an accident, like I said, created out of a big bang that somehow wasn't created by a spiritual entity, and that we are just here by coincidence, by accident, and that God doesn't exist. And it's clear that they don't like God. You can just pay attention in mainstream media, in TV, in movies, and music. They mock him. They mock the Christian God specifically, Jesus to the nth degree. But I don't want to lose you by making this a Christian video. And people might not understand that, well, how is thinking you live on this hiding God? Well, it did for me. I didn't believe in God for 42 years until I realized I lived in a place that I couldn't deny was created by some sort of creator. I thought I lived on a ball hurling through infinite space in infinite galaxies, and that it formed over billions of years of liquid hot magma coming together because of gravity. I had my mind wrapped up in what I was told by the mainstream. But when you literally realize that there is an undeniable creator, then you, without a doubt, don't start believing in God. You know that there is a God. So in this video, I'm not trying to convince you that you don't live on a globe yet. I'm just trying to convince you to question what you've always been told, because the people that have told it to you are clearly not trustworthy, not by a long shot. This is just that first layer of the onion. And if you can remove that first layer, well, there's further to go. And I invite you to keep joining me on this journey and keep an open mind throughout. Today on part 2 of Do We Really Live on One of These? I'm not gonna jump into the proofs yet. What I'm gonna continue to do is lower your defenses by showing you some images that they show us. I'm gonna start right here with this. This is literally supposed to be an image from NASA of Earth. And when you just type in images of Earth from NASA, you get things that look so different that it has to cause your mind to say, well, why does the Earth look so different from day to day coming from the same supposed images? I'll tell you why. Because exactly that. They are images. They're not photographs. You are confusing photographs for computer-generated images. The same thing with satellites. They don't have photographs of satellites. They are all computer-generated images. And if you just go look with an open mind and some discernment, you will see that over and over and over again, there are no photographs. And if there are supposedly thousands upon thousands of satellites, you would think one would be able to take a photograph of another. But all you get is a CGI. Total CGI. Over and over and over again. Same thing with stars. If you type in stars and even NASA stars and images, all you're gonna get is computer-generated images. And we are so used to seeing these. We saw these our whole lives that we didn't question them. But if you question them with a discerning mind, what you will see is these are pictures. They're pictures. Literally pictures. Not photographs, not zoom in, high definition photos. They're images. CGI images. And they even do the exact same thing with the sun. Type in NASA images of the sun and you are going to find the exact same thing. Nothing but images. No photographs, no solar filter photographs, just images. CGI. And when you finally decide to go elsewhere and see what other people are showing that isn't the agency that rhymes with BASA, you see what I took here with my own camera, with a solar filter on, images of the sun and what it looks like versus what they show us. Do you see what you're seeing here? Unprogram the mind and look at it with a clear mind. It's cartoons. And again, when you go to amateurs, go to YouTube, go to amateurs, type star amateur photography, and what you're gonna see is something a whole lot different than what you think stars are or what you have thought stars are. Here we go. I've captured something like this many times. Does this look like what they present us? Does that look like a burning ball of gas trillions, if not quintillions of miles away? You gotta start looking at things with an unprogrammed mind, and then we'll jump into the proofs. Because until you get to the point where maybe for the first time in your life you believe your eyes and your senses and what your body and your mind and your soul is telling you versus appealing to the authority and believing what they tell us is truth, well then the proofs I show you, the scientific, repeatable, measurable proofs over and over again, you're never gonna believe because you're just gonna say, well, I trust Bassa, or I trust whoever. Stop trusting other people and look with a clear mind and an open mind and use discernment, and you're gonna see by the end of this video series that what you think you thought your whole life isn't truth. And all you gotta do is want truth, want to seek truth, want to find truth more than anything else, and you'll find it. It's there. They hide it. But if you're determined, you're going to find it. Today on part 3 of Do We Really Live on One of These, we get into the proof. But if you are new to this and you haven't seen part 1 and part 2, I recommend you go watch it. It talks about who provided us the information that we live here, and also how all their evidence, all their visual evidence, like this one, is computer generated. And what I have to talk about today, while I think it maybe isn't the #1 best right in your face proof, I think it's really important to start with this one because it's something you can experience and you can research from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to travel to some far distant place to try to see lands further than you should. Oh no, you just need to get a Starfinder app and you need to know the information about what they tell us about that star right there, the North Star, Polaris. Now what you need to know about the North Star Polaris is that it stays stationary every day, every hour, every minute, every month, every year. It's right there and the stars circle around it. And like I said, the beautiful thing is you can go test this out yourself. This is what you should do. Download any star finding app and locate the star Polaris and do it from standing in a specific spot in your house. And it's gonna be in the north, whatever direction in your house north is, and mark it. And for me, Polaris you can see is there. I stood in a position where it's always right there, right next to the corner of this little inlet. And then you can go outside and do the exact same thing and mark it. And it's, you know, for me, I'm outside my front door and it's right at the corner of this tree. And I am telling you right now, anytime you ever go to check it, whether it's an hour from now, a day from now, a month from now, a week from now, 5 years from now, it will be right there all the time. And I've experienced this with seeing the actual star with my own eyes. I'm not just relying on the technology. And again, you can go find literally thousands of people who have done star trail time-lapse videos where Polaris doesn't move. And maybe you're saying, so what? It doesn't move. What does that prove? Well, maybe you don't know what they tell us we're supposedly doing, because we're supposedly rotating 1,000 miles per hour. We're supposedly traveling around the sun at 66,000 miles per hour.
It is. As we know, it takes the Earth about 24 hours to complete a rotation. The circumference of the Earth is about 25,000 miles, so if you live at the equator, you're spinning at over 1,000 miles per hour. And we're just getting started. We also know that it takes the Earth roughly 365 days to orbit the Sun. The total trip is almost 600 million miles, which means the Earth is circling at over 66,000 miles per hour. And the Sun is also moving towards other stars in the galaxy and bringing us along at about 43,000 miles per hour. At the same time, it's moving upwards relative to the Milky Way plane at over 15,000 miles per hour. In addition to all that, the Sun orbits the center of the Milky Way once every 225 million years, moving at 483,000 miles per hour to make the trip. All things considered, we're moving at about 540,000 miles per hour as a solar system. And on top of all of that, the Milky Way is shooting through the universe. If we measure the galaxy's speed relative to cosmic background radiation from the Big Bang, we find it's traveling at an incredible 1.3 million miles an hour. So you're moving on Earth, the Earth is moving around the Sun is moving around the galaxy, and the entire galaxy is moving around the universe at a combined speed of over 1.9 million miles an hour.
And somehow, Polaris stays right there, and right there, and right there, all the time. Oh, and they don't even tell you that all the directions that the Earth is spinning and revolving and rotating and traveling through the galaxy and traveling through the universe isn't in the same perfect directions like the stars show us every single day. But don't you dare believe me. I started with this one as the number one proof because you can very easily go prove this to yourself. And please, I encourage you to do that. And along the way, I never want you to believe me. Belief is the enemy of knowing. I want you to know, and you need to do things yourself to know. Today on part 4 of Do We Really Live on One of These? We tackle water. And you ever notice this little guy here with the little mouth and 2 eyes? It's a strange looking thing in a supposed image from NASA. You see, this proof is so elementary to someone who is outside of the programming that it literally is kind of ridiculous. But when you're still inside the programming, your mind thinks that gravity is holding trillions of gallons of water to a spinning ball. And your immediate response is to say, you don't understand how gravity works. Well, I'm here to tell you, you don't understand how water works. Because the funny thing about water is that it always lays level, especially when it's at rest, kind of like the level here in the water. And funny how the level there is the same as the level there, as the same as the level there. And the other funny thing about water is that it needs a container, kind of like this small little koi pond. And we all know that the water in that koi pond is level. And if you level up to a bigger pond, that water is level. And if you level up to a lake, that water is level. And to a bigger lake, that water is contained by the shore and level. Yet somehow, when we take this to a larger scale, because we have all been told since the age of 3 years old that we live on a ball where gravity is holding water to a curving ball, kind of like this water ball fountain in Aruba. But you'll notice something. That water is all seeking its level. It's going down, 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 seeking its level and its container. Which might cause you to say, well, where's the ocean's container? I've never seen it. Well, have you ever seen this United States Navy photography report from 1957 in Antarctica? Well, there's your container, the Antarctic ice wall. Ice wall. Now I want to show you something else if you're having a hard time wrapping your head around this. Let me first just let you see a little bit more US Navy footage of said ice wall and said container. And did you know something? Did you know that Antarctica just happens to have the highest average elevation in any continent in Earth? That's right, more than double any of the other ones. So its average height is more than double the height off of sea level than any other continent. And yes, this might be hard for you if you are new to wrap your head around the fact that the water is contained by a giant ice wall, but let me give you some further evidence that you're not living on a curving ball, and it again has to do with water. The law of reflection states that a reflection of light on a sphere does that, and does that, and does that. It does not travel a line of sight right to your feet. So all you have to do is actually experience what you experience and put that into use instead of believing what you've been told your entire life. Because as much as you would like to believe what you were told is truth and that water can somehow curve around a ball, even though anytime you would ever see water, anytime in your entire life you've experienced water, you could put a level on it when it is at rest and it will be level, not curving. But of course, as always, this is just for entertainment purposes, and I know that just all the water that I've ever experienced is just on such a small scale that I can't tell that it's curving. Well, maybe we'll check that out next time when we check the 60 miles of water between the sand dunes in Michigan to Chicago and see what's happening with that water. Today on part 5 of Do We Really Live on a Globe? We tackle line of sight. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach on this one, though, because I've literally done dozens of videos showing buildings and different objects in the distance that they tell us we shouldn't be able to see because of the curvature of the Earth. And This one was an example, Chicago from 55 miles away, that I saw with my own eyes, and I could tell, unlike what they say on the news, that this was no mirage. But me telling you isn't going to do it for you. You got to go out and you got to experience this, and you got to do the math yourself, because if you just believe this, you're just believing. It's an overused saying, but belief is the enemy of knowing. And I want you to know that you do not live on a curving, spinning water ball. Here's another example of the long distance photography shot of 275 miles away. And some of the things you need to ask yourself is, why are things always pointed straight up? Yeah, you might not be able to see the bottom of buildings, but there's explanations for that, like lensing, and how the atmosphere can create a lens to magnify things where you're not going to be able to see the bottom. Kind of like at a certain point, you can't continue to see the sun. It's not because it's going down, it's because it's going further away. Just like I'm going further away here, and there's a lens that's stopping you from seeing endlessly. So the bottom line here is, if we live on the ball they tell us, there is a specific curve rate because they supposedly know the circumference of the Earth. And that specific curve rate is supposedly 8 inches per mile squared. So if you know your distance from something and you know your elevation from something, you can compare that to what they tell us the obscured object should be. The obscured object was supposed to be 1,600 feet. And the tallest building in Chicago, right there, is only 1,400 feet tall. And believe it or not, I've even recorded the city of Charleston, South Carolina, from the city of Jacksonville, Florida, the distance of 194 miles away. And what they tell us the curve rate should be is 25,000 feet of obscured object. None of these buildings are even close to that. But here's something you need to know. The internet is so difficult to navigate and find truth in. You can't trust anything you get. So what you need to do is take the information that they provide you as truth. So, AKA, we live on a ball with a certain curve rate, and you need to compare that with your own experience. So for me, when I lived in Illinois, I drove here and I looked across and I saw Chicago with my very own eyes. And I compared that to what they said. And this is what they said: you're seeing a mirage. And well, I either need to be looking at buildings with my own eyes and believe what someone else is telling me I'm seeing, or look at building with my own eyes and know what my senses are telling me. And it's no mirage. So like I said, don't believe me. And if you want more evidence of this, go search it up. There's evidence upon evidence upon evidence. I have literally, like I said, dozens on my page, but I encourage you to go find a spot to experience far distance for yourself, because then you're not believing anyone, then you're knowing. Your soul will know what the truth is. Today on the final chapter of Do We Really Live on a Globe?, we tackle anomalies. As in things we can see and experience with our own eyes that are impossible to explain on one of these. We're going to start at the beginning and at the end of days. Here is a beautiful sunrise that I captured in Florida on a very low humidity day, and where it looks like the sun is half up because it hasn't come around the curve of the earth yet. When you zoom in, you see it's already very high in the sky. How is that possible if we're only seeing half of it because of the curve? This is where you need to take a minute and ask yourself questions. Ask yourself, well, if I can zoom in and the sun is already up, maybe something else is going on here that is not allowing me to see the full sun. Maybe there's atmosphere that can create a lensing effect, and maybe, just maybe, perspective isn't in play. As in, when something goes further away, it gets lower in your field of vision. Kind of like in this sunset, we all know that these clouds are not touching the water, but they're far enough away that they became low enough in my field of vision to do exactly what the sun is doing. Moving further and further away and getting lower and lower in your field of vision until it disappears. And because the humidity was high on that day, the humidity was acting as a lens, kind of like this magnifying glass. I'm only moving backwards there. I'm not going down. Kind of like the sun is only moving backwards here. But now go watch a sunset in Mexico with a super low humidity day again, and you see that the sun goes off into the distance and it shrinks because as something goes further away, it gets smaller and lower. And then finding other anomalies that cannot be explained away in the heliocentric model, like seeing the sun during the eclipse and the actual sun in the firmament projecting to the sun that we actually see. And again, the same exact thing. layers of the firmament projecting from the actual sun. And seeing things like this that isn't a solar flare, because that's the solar flare, that don't make sense on the model of the world you live in, you don't just ignore it. You look into it and say, what in the world is actually going on here? And you try to make sense of it. And well, it's funny that making sense of it aligns perfectly with the Bible. And when you see the sun, which is supposedly 93 million miles away, nestled beautifully into a fluffy layer of clouds, you gotta ask yourself, how is that possible? And experiencing things like anti-crepuscular rays that are impossible if the sun is 93 million miles away, because you can triangulate these rays back to the source, not only above the sun, but below the sun as well. Again, this is impossible. All these rays would be coming in at the same angle if the sun was really 93 million miles away. But again, you can triangulate it back up to the source. And last, but certainly not least, if you go explore what the stars actually look like instead of what that 4-letter agency tells us and what they put in the books, you see that they look nothing like burning balls of gas trillions of miles away. And maybe, just maybe, we've all been led to believe this, so we don't know the true nature of where we live, and we don't know the true nature of who created it, or who we are, or how powerful we actually are, and how we can manifest things, and how we have the ability to do whatever we want. And maybe a big part of the reason this was created was so you don't trust your senses, because if you can look up and see the moon and the stars and the sun circling you, yet you can somehow be convinced that you are rotating at 1,000 miles per hour faster than the speed of sound, well, then you can't trust your own senses, and you need to appeal to the authority and ask, Mr. Teacher, Mr. Government Official, can you please inform me on the information, because I don't trust myself? Well, I'm here to give you your power back. I'm here to say, trust yourself. Learn to re-accept your senses. Learn to trust your senses. Find your senses, because they're hidden inside of you, and all you have to do is want to get them back. And they're yours. You just gotta want it. And once you realize you don't live on one of infinite of these and infinite galaxies with infinite nonsense of space, well, then you realize you're here with a purpose, and you are very, very special and very, very significant. And like I said, you have a lot of power, more than you could ever realize. And if you've made it through all these videos and you still are having a hard time challenging your already established beliefs, well, then let me ask you a question. Why? Are you afraid? Are you afraid what might be on the other side? Are you afraid you might have to give up on some things you've enjoyed your whole life? Well, I got news for you. The other side, although it might seem scary, it's a whole lot better. I promise you, because you live in a world where you're not fearful. You're not fearful of them. You're not fearful of dying. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. And I'm here to give you that little gift, because this big ball of lies, it keeps it from you. Like I said, I just want to give it back. And if you've made it through this video and you still have questions, I encourage you to go to that website or go to the App Store and download this app, because it's the only place in the entire flat realm that you live in that you can actually research things and get non-censored, unbiased opinion, just literal, real science, measurable, repeatable, observable science. And use my code, FITFLAT, and have an awesome day. Oh, and of course, this was all for entertainment purposes. I create these videos for the views and just to entertain you with my satirical opinion. Entertainment only.